The most important Finnish autumn time festival was Kekri. Kekri, also known as Kekri, was one of the biggest pagan holidays celebrated in ancient Finland. It was usually celebrated on the first or the second week of November. Kekri was not a communal celebration. It was celebrated within the family, and each family decided themselves when to celebrate Kekri. Celebration usually took place after all the harvest work was finally finished. Festivities lasted 3 days: Kekri Eve, Kekri Day, and All Souls Day. In modern Finnish calendar, Kekri takes place on the 1st of November and All Saints' Day on the 2nd of November. As a festival, Kekri is similar to Samhain in Ireland, Calan Cave in Wales, and Days of the Dead in Mexico, and Velines in Lithuania, and maybe even somewhat to American Halloween. It is believed that the word Kekri is derived from Finno-Ugric word Kekrai, which means a circle or a wheel. Kekri was the end of the year celebration, so it literally meant the turning of the wheel. As a word, it is similar to Finnish word kekkerit, which means a tiny party. Finnish word for November, marrasku, refers to the dying month, marras, meaning death. Kekri was part of a time period called jakoaika, which means the dividing time. It was the darkest time of the year, lasting from the beginning of October to December. It was believed that during jakoaika, spirits were walking among the living, and dead were able to visit their homes and families. Many customs that belonged into Finnish Kekri celebration are now part of the modern Finnish Christmas celebration. One of the most common customs was to eat a lot. It was recommended that one should eat at least 7 or 9 times a day. Kekri was a massive celebration in ancient Finland. Preparing for the darkest time of the year, people needed to keep their hopes up, and one way to do that was to have a celebration where there was food served that was not available in any other day. Kekri was also time for fortune-telling and spells. Young people performed love spells and tried to find out who their future spouse would be. Melting tin was a popular custom. In modern-day Finland, melting tin is part of the New Year's traditions. Many of the spells and Kekri divinations were connected to the well-being of the land and growing of the crop. One way to find out how the future crop would grow was to serve lots of vodka to the master of the house, and if he would not pass out, the crop would be good, and if he would pass out, crop would not be successful. Finnish literal language was created in the 16th century. Biggest credit for this goes to Finnish Archbishop Mikael Agricola, who translated several religious texts into Finnish. Agricola also wrote the first literal list of Finnish pagan deities. In this list of deities he mentions harvest god called Kekri. Whether Kekri was a harvest god is something that the folklorists like to debate. There is a possibility that Kekri was a harvest god, possibly borrowed from Baltic or Slavic folklore. Etymology of the word refers Kekri being the turning point of the wheel of the year. There was a character which was essential part of the celebration, and that was Kekri Pukki, and it literally means Kekri goat, but also is sometimes translated into Kekri Santa. Kekri Pukki was usually a young man who was dressed up in a fur coat that was turned upside down, wearing a mask and goat's horns. Kekri Pukki and a group of similar-looking characters went from house to house, singing, dancing, and performing dirty plays and jokes for free drinks. It is possible that Kekri Pukki was a fertility symbol, and this is something that I personally believe, perhaps a representation of an early fertility god. In several countries and cultures, and gods connected to goat or ox-like animals are usually connected to fertility, like Pan in ancient Greece. Interestingly enough, in Finland, Kekri Pukki was the character that eventually inspired the character of Santa Claus / Father Christmas. Along with these young men walked a group of young women called Kekrittäret. They were women dressed up in white sheets and their faces covered with white paint. Kekrimöret were a group of little children dressed up as ghosts and spirits and demons. Children smoked their faces and wore old sheets. They visited from house to house, dancing and performing little plays during Kekri. This custom doesn't exist anymore in modern-day Finland. In Estonian countryside, you can come across similar custom during Marttipäev in the 10th of November. In Estonian, these children are called as martis, the dead spirits. Kekri was tied to honor the ancestors and passed away relatives. Master of the house invited the ancestors in the Kekri Eve by going outside and pouring some ale to the road. It was believed that the scent of the beer would wake up the ancestors and they would follow him inside the house. Dinner was prepared and places were also served for the ancestors. It was believed that spirits would enjoy their dinner while the family members would go into the sauna. The sauna was prepared for the ancestors as well. There was clean towels and vihtas served for the ancestors. Sauna was warmed up for the whole night, and it was believed that the ancestors would stay in the sauna till morning. Kekri was time to remind people that those who have passed away are never completely gone. They just live in another realm invisible to us. In modern-day Finland, Kekri is mostly celebrated by neo-pagans. There are some pagan traditions that have been reintroduced to the wider public within recent years. One of them is burning the Kekri goat in the cities and villages. Kekri goat, Kekri pukki, is a goat made from willow and it is lit on fire during Kekri evening. Families and friends gather together to watch the burning. Goat is usually 2 to 3 meters high and wide. It can be even bigger than that. This custom originates from old pagan custom to burn fires during Kekri to keep evil spirits away. It was believed that during Kekri, evil spirits, martaat, would fly around doing bad deeds. Many of the Kekri customs can now be found from Finnish Christmas and New Year celebrations. Straws were a big part of Kekri. In the agricultural society, straws were powerful symbols that represented fertility of the land. All kinds of decorations made from straw, like tiny straw goats, were symbols of Kekri, but nowadays they are symbols of Christmas in Finland and in Sweden. There was also an announcement made for Kekri peace, Kekri rauha, for all people and animals to have for peaceful Kekri celebration. In modern-day Finland, each Christmas Eve in Turku, the old capital of Finland, the President of Finland announces joulurauha, the Christmas peace. Kekri was celebrated in Finland for a long time. Christianity arrived to Finland around the 12th century, but it was not until the 18th and the 19th centuries when almost all Finns were converted into Lutheranism. Kekri was a very popular holiday among the people. From the end of the 19th century, there are markings that people were still celebrating Kekri. In the 18th century and in the 19th century, when Lutheranism was the only approved religion, Kekri was banned, and some of the punishments for people who celebrated Kekri were fines, or they might even end up to prison for a while. Celebration slowly vanished in the beginning of the 20th century. This was partially because of Christianity, but even bigger factor was the Industrial Revolution, which forced many people to move away from the countryside to the cities to look for work. Kekri, the Great Harvest Festival. Kekri has been brought back within recent 20 years, thanks to the more research that has been made about these old customs and the rising interest towards the traditions and beliefs of the pre-Christian Finland.